Explorers, welcome back to the Starfield Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, and I'm here with Dave as usual. And Dave, today we are taking on another location. We've been working our way through the different locations across this part of the galaxy. And today we're talking about Neon. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah. Flashing lights. Sorry, I'm trying not to get us copyrighted, but you get what I'm saying. That's the intro song for this.
Yeah, because there's all the neon lights in Neon.
I mean, there are a lot of neon lights in Neon. Mm-hmm. I wonder where they make the neon.
I don't know that we have any lore about that. I mean, I would imagine they're just harvesting elements and then running electricity through it like you do with most neon signs. Like, could be. Neon is one of them, which is why we call them neon signs.
I think it's a tier 3 resource, though. It's like the gold resource. So they must be getting them from somewhere, you know?
I don't know. But we do know, there are things we do know. And that's what today's episode's about. Because this is a location that doesn't run like any other location that we are aware of in the galaxy. Because it's not a settlement in the traditional sense. It's a business venture that started with fishing giant fish. And this leads into eventually joining the Freestar group, and then some other corporations and things form around it. And then there's all of this, I don't know, there's the poor people and the different gangs and the different corporations. And it is kind of its own form of Wild West without being the Wild West. So let's just get into it. So what do we know about how Neon started and the geography of the location and that kind of stuff?
So it's actually on the planet known as Voli Alpha. It's in the Voli system. Voli Alpha is interesting because it's just an ocean planet. Yeah. Like it's the opposite of Dune. It is just oops, all water.
It's Waterworld.
We made it.
It's wonderful hit movie from the 90s.
Correct. It's 100% water. You can scan the planet. You can't land on the planet, actually. The only place you can land is the platform known as Neon. But the planet itself, it seems like it's host to a number of different fish. And that's where Xenofresh, a corporation that was doing essentially interplanetary fishing, found the planet and was like, hey, water world, we want a part of you. And so they built this fishing platform that was going to be the start of their new empire. And I think that happened in the late 2100s that it was discovered and they built that platform.
The actual start date is pretty vague. Like, we don't think we actually get an official date in any of the lore that I've seen. But we do know that by the 21 somethings that things had kind of started because the Xenofresh Fisheries Company is the one who made the platform, because they were like, it's a big planet full of water and a bunch of fish. If we can build a platform at some location and fish all the fish, then we can make money off of fish. And then they discovered something they didn't expect to discover when they and I don't know the best way to pronounce this. Chasm, Chasmbass. Chasm bass. It's like the big, mean-looking fish on the planet.
Spell that again for me.
Chasm bass. It's chasm bass.
Is there an S in there?
There is an S in there. Yeah, I double checked.
In the middle,
I just
wrote down Chambass.
Yeah, no, this is another one of those. He pulled it at Dave Chafin.
One of my like dig pics or whatever, and my Chambass.
Yeah, somehow one of the letters disappeared.
These big boys are the Chambass here.
Chasm bass?
We got them down at the Cabela's. We put them in the big tank down there, put them next to
Yeah, well, they have bass in the name. They don't look like any bass that I've seen before. The first time I saw one of these, it, for some reason, spawned on the platform outside the elevator and was just like sitting there looking at the elevator, wiggling, not responding to anybody. But they've got them, up on the platform where they're being hauled out of the water and they're being basically harvested for a very specific chemical that they produce.
Yes, it's a hallucinogenic chemical that they found when they were. Imagine this. Imagine you're out there, you're fishing for all these different things, and you're getting stuff together, and you're just kind of testing a little bit of everything. And then somebody takes a big old hunk of meat, puts it in the grill, cooks it up, and then just eats it. And all of a sudden, they are tripping balls. Like, they are absolutely out of it. Like, what do you what do you do at that point? Is that like a secret for a while? It's like, well, after work, after we're done fishing, we get some of the fish and we put it on the grill. Or is it like they shipped all the fish out and then everybody started hallucinating in the rest of the galaxy for like a good 3 months? They had to do a recall and then they had to call everybody on their personal phones and be like, oh, there's a recall on the cham bass you bought from the local space Kroger,
some people are really skeptical of sushi because it's uncooked fish, and so they feel weird about it, but it's absolutely safe as long as it's prepared correctly, all of that. I would imagine this is a similar kind of thing. Somebody made some sushi with the whatever it is, and started tripping, and then Aunt Karen was like
space high
well, I told you not to eat sushi. I don't know why she's from. Oh, don't you know? I told you not to eat the sushi now.
I don't know. Back in when I was in high school, they had the oregano challenge. But if you down a whole bottle of oregano, you can get really high. So what if there was a challenge to be like, if you eat 6 fish steaks, man, you're gonna be out there, man. You're gonna be really out there.
Yeah, Grandpa's just walking into the ocean. So this chasm bass, I'm going to call it chasm bass, has some sort of hallucinogenic chemical that obviously has created everything that comes later, because this was the main economy center for everything. They were like, well, why would we sell food when we can get everybody high and they're going to spend more money for that? And then they expanded the platform and other people started showing up and they started creating their own businesses, including some major corporations over the next significant period of time. We've got 100 years almost, 50 years. So Neon was put on the map in 2187 when it was kind of expanded into a tourist and commerce destination because of all the substances they were making. So we've got a good roughly 50 years now that it's been around, and
right.
Kind of
and part of the reason is it seems like that they discovered this and they started shipping it, and the United Colonies was like, hey, we're going to ban that. We don't like that. We don't like your Aurora. We don't want you putting drugs into our system. We're a government focusing on the people and its citizens, and we don't want these drugs you're peddling. We don't want it. And so I think that was the thing of okay, well, we're just going to make them here. So then you had the entertainment groups coming in there, and then people being like, okay, well, that's a free market, so I can start my business there.
Right.
Or house my business there, and it's not going to get caught up in all of these different rules and regulations. Effectively, it's a regulation-free zone. I know that a lot of some governments or even states in the United States, they will get rid of regulation and say, okay, well, this zone is correct for that. Nevada has that for a lot of different stuff, for the Vegas area. There's a lot of regulations that exist in other states. They get rid of them, and then more businesses kind of situate around it.
Yeah, and it becomes a draw for sketchy businesses or businesses with sketchy practices. Their products may not be so sketchy, but they are feel much more free to do whatever they want. And that plays into the storylines that we run into at this location, right?
Yeah, yes, it does. The storyline and where we kind of pick it up is the Bayou family, or Bayou. I don't know how they
Benjamin Bayou. We're great at pronunciation on this show.
Cham bass. He is a part of the family that has owned and started Xenofresh Corporations and is the owner of, essentially he's the unofficial mayor of Neon. And so when we enter there, he is in control of a lot of pretty much all of the Aurora that's being distributed out and in through there. And is the de facto leader that you have some dealings with and some quests, as well as his family members. I think he has a brother that you have to deal with at one point during the quest. But he is kind of the centerpiece that seems like that he has his finger on the pulse of everything. He's got his finger on all the other corporations, what's going on with the underside of the Neon.
The Undercity, the actual Undercity itself. Yeah.
He kind of knows exactly what's going on and has control over all elements, it seems.
Right. So that includes, let's go over some of the other corporations. So we have Ryujin, who we're familiar with if you play through that quest line, right? They're the ones that we start working for. And they are making cybernetics, including these implants that go into people's brains and allow them to do crazy stuff. And I don't want to get too spoilery on that plot line because it's pretty fun stuff if you haven't done it yet and you want to get through and kind of figure out what Ryujin is all about. But of course, it's a corporation and there's all sorts of, backstabbing each other in the corporation, sometimes literally, in order to get what you want, or other people from other corporations in order to compete with them, all of that, right? But then
subsidiaries, a lot of those too, of like, oh, we're making this specific thing, we're a part of the Ryujin family. Right.
So then what other corporations are there?
Yeah, so there is, of course, Generdyne, who is famous for making the electrical system that Neon uses. That is the only thing that they have made. And it essentially, when lightning strikes these like control towers on the top of it, that's what generates the electricity for the rest of Neon. So it's like a super Ben Franklin conduction grid. It's like, oh, we loved Ben Franklin. He had that key and a kite and had that lightning. And you know what? We're going to make a city based off of it because we love Ben Franklin.
It's pretty cool. It's a really smart idea because this is an area that's covered in water. I guess there's a lot of static friction in the atmosphere. So there's lots of thunderstorms and lightning and those kinds of things. So this company comes along not too long after Xenofresh establishes the platform and all of that, and they're dealing with all of this lightning, and they come up with this solution. They're like, okay, let's create this grid that not only protects the platform, but then harnesses the power from the lightning to power everything on the platform, which is a really cool idea. It took them like 25 years to finish making this. I guess it was a big project, and it's the only one like it that we know of in the galaxy.
Yes. I personally like this kind of like lore about the locations. Like I wish there was more of that, of like, hey, we're on this specific planet. Like some of my favorite sci-fi is like, hey, we're on this specific planet and have this adaptive technology for this thing. Like in Dune, they have the suits that it's like, oh, whenever we, pee or spit or whatever, it like uses
recycles
that liquid into water, and so we don't lose our moisture when we're out in the desert. It all just gets like put back into our bodies, and it's like we've invented this technology to live on this planet, and it has this lore and this use. So I think that the conduction grid fits under that, which I think is super interesting.
Yeah. So that's Generdyne, and then there's a few other companies. Who else?
There's a few other. The Trade Authority has a big stop there. The Trade Authority is a company that you see everywhere you go, pretty much at almost every major port. They are the people that are buying and selling merchandise. They are the main trade partner. Sometimes shady, sometimes not shady. They kind of have like a
kind of depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to with that one. They're a little shady. Core Kinetics, they make mag-based weapons, so your mag shot, your mag pistol, the ones with a lot of the bullets coming out.
Yeah, all the little laser pointers on the front, like the big group laser pointer guns. I love the way those look.
Those like those old toys, like there's a bunch of needles and you put your hand in it and it's that little shape. That's what those guns remind me of. It's those little. You remember the toy with all the needles that you stick your hand in?
You put your face on it, and then it was like, who put their face in there? And you've still got the little pokey marks on your face, and you're like, I did. It kind of hurt. I shouldn't do that again. Yeah.
Next up, you've got Kelp Corp, who's a manufacturer of mining technology and runs many mining sites. Mining is a big thing in Starfield. Like the United Colonies has a lot of the mining rights to a lot of different planets. It seems like mining is a big industry there. Look at Sidonia, which is a United Colonies area. It seems like Kelp Corp is more Freestar Collective. And then Stroud Eklund is there as well. And they are, of course, a spaceship manufacturer managed by Walter Stroud and his partner.
Good old Walter.
Eklund.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Their relationship is complicated.
Yes.
Husband and wife team that runs the company, but they kind of are competitors also. It's interesting. Yeah. So we've got all of those locations. And then there's this entire undercity where the commoners live, kind of in squalor, I guess you could say.
Right. There is an undercity that has a few different gangs that kind of operate out of there. But the one major faction that kind of operates in the nefarious department is the Sengoku Syndicate, or Siogu Syndicate.
Sioku.
Singo Syndicate.
There's no N. but okay.
It's the Scene Syndicate. They are an underground crime syndicate that you encounter in a number of different quest lines. They're kind of like the stand-in for that. I think in maybe Solomon Coe's. What is it? What's his name?
Samco.
That sounds like a name of a corporation. Samco.
Welcome to Samco.
Exactly. One of the Freestar Rangers, you kind of run into that. I think in the Crimson Raiders, they're a little bit in that quest line. They kind of touch a lot of different things, but it seems like they have a lot of connections to that Benjamin Bayou fella. So it seems like that they are kind of like the underhand of Benjamin Bayou that's, tickling the soft belly of Neon. You know what I mean?
So that leads to all sorts of questions that we're going to get into in the second half about who's actually running everything. How does this actually work? One company owns the platform, but other companies are there as well. They don't have seemingly a regular form of government that is recognizable, and yet somehow all of these people survive and get along. Like corporatocracy maybe would be the closest example of what the government actually is. So we're going to get into some questions on the second half, but first we've got to go thank our patrons. So don't go anywhere. All right, here we are in the middle of the show, and as always, this show is brought to you by our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you are interested in getting ad-free episodes, t-shirts, or stickers, or joining us at the end of every month for our patron chat, then head over to patreon.com/StarfieldLorecast. Take a look at that. Our next patron chat is coming up very quickly on the 29th, Monday the 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. If you are one of our tier 4 or higher patrons, you're welcome to come join us, and we will be discussing in our private Discord channel exactly what we will be talking about, and it's totally up to you guys. So feel free to join us and jump in there if you can. And let's see, anything else? Oh, we got to shout out our Commander Marcus Shepard, our Space Lord. If you sign up as a Space Lord, you get shout outs every week. Thank you, Commander Marcus Shepard. We really do appreciate it. And also, if you'd like to help us out in other ways, leaving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts is a great way to do it. Plus, we'll read out your words on a future episode of the show. You can rate us on Spotify or whatever other podcatcher you're listening to us on. You can join us for the live shows on Twitch, on the Robots Radio Twitch channel, or check out on the Robots Radio YouTube channel the live episodes, the video versions, where you can see our beautiful faces. Or, you can just tell your friends. Any of that stuff helps, and we appreciate it because we couldn't do it without you. So thanks for being here. All right, let's move on with our questions about Neon. Here we go. All right, Dave. So Neon's quite a puzzle because, like you said before, it would be nice if we had more specifics about the lore, but this being the very first game and it being expansive with so many different locations, we get little bits and pieces that we have to kind of make assumptions about, right? Unless things get fleshed out, say in future updates or expansions or sequels or those kinds of things. There's only so much that we know right now. I know you've got some questions about Neon. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, my thought is Neon itself a megacorp? And I mean that to say, under the Freestar Collective, you have you called it a corporatocracy, I believe.
Corporatocracy, yeah.
Corporatocracy.
Corporatocracy. We get glimpses of this in different forms of literature and stories. The Obsidian space game that came out a few years ago, Outer Worlds. That was, everything's a corporatocracy. The corporation owns everything and you work for the corporation. The corporation then gives you your pay, but then you have to buy things from companies that the corporation owns in your specific location. So basically everything cycles back to the corporation. They are ultimately in power and they do as they want because there's no other form of government above them. There's no democracy or even, authoritarian group that tells them what they can and can't do.
Right. And I think the Outer Worlds is a little more overt with that of like meeting people and then they're like, it's wait, before I talk to you, it's not the best choice. It's Spacer's choice. Right.
And they turn it into a big joke. And that is one of the main themes. What we see in Neon isn't as heavy handed intentionally. It's more of just, well, this is just how this place works and everyone just kind of gets along with their day. Kind of the way more, I feel more people would actually act like this in those kinds of situations.
I think there's not a lot of information on what the Freestar Collective Board of Governors is, because like who is on the Board of Governors? Like we know for a fact that Ron Hope is, based off of the Freestar Collective timeline, and all of the Hope Industry stuff is under him. So I would assume that Benjamin Bayou is
pretty
also
sure
on
he is. Yeah.
the Board of Governors.
Right.
And if the Board of Governors is just these, high powered, corporate affairs folks, then you have this kind of oligarchy of capitalists that's up there running the whole show.
Yeah, but it's kind of a confederacy. So there's no formal federal government overseeing it all.
You're right.
Basically, it's a conglomeration of these different groups who agree to work together, but they also agree not to tell each other what to do outside of, say, voting on a policy together and deciding to go forward with it. So in that way, it's complex, right? Like if the Freestar Collective decided to actually start mandating that Neon do certain things, they probably have, Benjamin Bayou specifically probably has the right to say, well, I'm going to go along with that or I'm not. And if I'm not, then maybe I'm just not part of the Freestar Collective anymore. See you later. He probably has the right to do that under the concept of it being a confederation. And maybe I'm overstretching definitions and bounds here because, again, there's not a whole lot of clarity exactly about the way this works on kind of a minute, nuanced level. These are just assumptions that I've made and Dave's making based on our experience so far and conversations that we've read in the community and those kinds of things. So I guess the real question then is, how much control does Benjamin Bayou actually have over the other corporations? Because it seems like the other corporations have the potential to do whatever they want, to take things into their own hands, to sabotage other companies and do those kinds of things. And there's not a whole lot of reprisal that comes back from that.
Benjamin Bayou seems to do what he wants. And it's interesting because all he does is own Xenofresh. That's all he does. And the
platform.
Lounge.
And the platform. Like the platform itself was created by Xenofresh,
the actual
right?
platform.
Yeah.
So it's like he's harvesting fish. He's making a drug and selling it in his Astral Lounge, which is the only place you can get Aurora. And he's also a real estate owner. Like he owns the real estate for Neon. It is the prime real estate of that planet. It is like, I imagine rent prices are very high on Neon.
Yeah. Do you think anybody actually owns outright their parts of the platform, or do you think he just rents everything out?
I think it's just renting everything out.
Yeah.
I think that's he probably leases in squares or whatever.
Right.
He's just like this particular zone. He probably owns the whole planet if we actually think about it. But that's kind of, since he owns all of that, every corporation that's on Neon has to work with him.
Right. Yeah. Because otherwise he raises their rent and forces them out if he just doesn't like them. Right. Like that's a really easy solution to a corporation that you don't get along with. Well,
sends out a syndicate to go after them or does something with their power conduction or does
right. Like, because who's the authority that's going to come after him other than just reprisal from that other company? And then you end up with two companies fighting each other. It becomes cyberpunk. Basically, these companies become their own nation states with their own militaries and they're just fighting each other. Like this is some cyberpunk stuff, actually.
And it kind of ties back to that idea of like Benjamin Bayou is effectively running a megacorp. Like think about like from the scale of the planet, he is a mega corporation on that planet because he is doing this, that, and the other thing. Like his effect on his fish and his like Aurora is like contraband across the rest of the galaxy. Like out there, his products aren't doing what they do on Neon, but he has so much control over the corporations that do the business on Neon that he automatically has a wide net to cast over the rest of the settled systems.
Yeah, I would imagine you also have the situation where even though the only place it's legal to get Aurora is on Neon, that doesn't mean that people aren't buying it on Neon and then criminally trafficking it out to other locations, making a lot of money. And he probably is aware of that. And he probably doesn't employ any of these illegal people, but he probably also doesn't have any problem selling them things while they're on Neon that they just happen to take off planet if they decided to. So that's an income stream as well.
And that kind of ties into one of the discussion questions that we have of, let's say you're a tourist and you come and you're like, okay, well, I want to buy some Aurora. and you go and you buy Aurora. You have your good old fanciful time. You wear
Grandpa trips balls off the side of the platform. Right.
Yeah, with the blue and purple suits in the Astral Lounge, like you're just having a great time. And then you're there and you buy something else, you buy a few things. But like, as you know, like from like when you think about like pleasure cities like Las Vegas, like you can get really into debt there because of the amount of stuff that you are buying or gambling or working with. It seems like to me that Aurora is the hook that Benjamin Bayou is fishing with, and he's not fishing fish; he's fishing people. You know what I mean?
So this is the gateway drug. Is that where you're going?
This is the gateway drug to controlling people's lives. He's like, hey, I've got this Aurora. It doesn't have any bad side effects. You can come do it. Just spend a little while here. Spend a little while on Neon. See what happens. And then as people come in, they get into his system. They get into his corporations that he, doesn't control. So their lives are altered by him just having this initial product.
Right. And this creates the stratification we see in Neon. We have all of these people who are now desperate for this drug, desperate for employment to be able to purchase the drug, and working in crappy conditions because they're getting taken advantage of because Benjamin Bayou knows that he's caught them. He's caught them in something that's not supposed to have side effects, which clearly it seems to.
Right.
So and that becomes the
you're a
Undercity,
smuggler,
right?
That wants to go into business for yourself. Well, good luck, because you got to clear that with him as well, as we know from some of the quests and storylines.
Yeah. So, all right, man, this Benjamin Bayou guy's not looking good. He seems like
he seems as bad as that Ron Hope fellow.
I know. Did you try killing? I mean, we've talked about Ron Hope before. Have you tried killing Benjamin Bayou?
I have
as well.
Yeah,
it doesn't work out.
The Crimson Fleet quest line. I think I tried to kill him.
Yeah,
because I was like,
he just takes a knee and gets back up.
Yeah, because he's like, I think during that quest line, you do something, and he's like, I'm going to put a bounty on your head. And in my head, I'm like, I'm a pirate, so I'm just going to kill you.
Yeah,
and walk off.
I was doing the Ryujin stuff. There's a moment in the Ryujin quest where you meet him in the lounge, right, in that like upstairs room or whatever, and he's basically telling you what you can and can't do, and like he's looking all nonchalant about how like he's control of everything, and I was just like, well, if you're dead, you're not in control of everything. And
exactly.
Yeah, and most of the time my character I tried to be the good guy, I tried to do the good thing, but in those moments I'm just like, same scum. Well, what happens if I shoot you in the face? Because you can't do anything you want if you're dead. And of course,
pretty much,
he doesn't die. And I would love for somebody to just mod that stuff in so you can just like, and even if you can't go further on the quest, it just breaks the quest. Just let me shoot the billionaire douchebags in the face for taking advantage of people, because that still feels, it's a little bit Punisher, but it still feels like it creates the greatest good.
I'm one of those. I am one of those purists that wishes that you could kill everyone, because the old Morrowind days of killing Vivek and then being like talking to people and be like, yeah, I killed Vivek, and they're like, well, we don't believe you because you can't kill a god.
Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
But then you could be like, well, I killed Alex Maya and saw it the still too, and they're like, yeah, we don't believe. Like, the idea of like, I did this, don't you believe me? No.
Yeah. No,
we don't believe that.
They're too powerful. Yeah. All right. Well, any other questions about Neon?
Well, no other questions about Neon, but I did want to briefly talk about, there's like big news at Microsoft right now.
Yes.
Of them laying off 8% of their workforce, which is, I think, about 1,900 jobs.
I think it's just in the video game section.
Just in the Microsoft video game. I forgot. It's
right.
Just the Xbox family.
Right. Because there are well more than that many employees working for Microsoft across the board everywhere.
Yes.
But yeah, just in the Microsoft video game section of the company, they had something like 10,000, 12,000 employees or something like this. And and they let go of what, like 1,900 today? Just today?
Yeah, 1,900 today. Yeah. I really think that from like a consumer perspective and a gamer perspective, that these kind of like big moves are felt, because this kind of blatant, corporate misdeed is felt by the creatives that work on the games. So like, we are going to feel this in Starfield. there's going to be a morale hit for everyone working on everyone's morale right now is down.
Right. And they're wondering, is this going to happen again? I've been through this. I went through a corporate merger. Two multi-billion-dollar companies merged together, and I was let go because the company who ended up in charge of my section didn't have people doing my job in their company. And they were like, why are we paying this dozen people to so much money in order to do something that we don't need? And so I was let go among a group of people. And then they came back again and they let go more people. And then another month later, they let go more people. It's normal. It's not good, but it is a regular thing for corporations after they combine with other companies, purchase other companies, to downsize because they have redundancies across the company. So Microsoft's probably going, well, we have this many people working on these projects and this many people working on these projects and these people over here, but we now have too many people in marketing or in product development or whatever across the board because we can be more efficient with this. So we're just going to let people go. To them, it's a numbers game, but to the employees, all of them, not just the people who are being let go, it is a thing that will affect their lives because they now are without work. They have to find new work. They might have to move cities. They might have to move their families in order to simply get a job and put food on the table. And I agree. Everyone in the company is going to feel it. When I went through this, everybody I knew at the company, especially the ones who didn't let go, were reaching out to me saying, I'm so sorry they let you go. You were a great employee, all of that. I'm also very nervous about my own job, and productivity sank because everyone was so worried about what was going on that they weren't invested in getting the work done. And I think you're 100% right about that.
And I think it's very dishonest of going through and when you're doing these mergers, you have to do a number of different hearings. You have to do a number of different government handiwork, especially like with anti-monopoly stuff. And when they purchased Bethesda, they didn't let go of anybody. When they purchased Activision, they didn't let go of anybody. And they promised people, they were like, yeah, nothing's going to change. It's going to be business as normal. Yeah. We're just going to do this stuff. But that's always a lie.
That's always a lie. That's always what they say because they want to get through the acquisition, and then they get past the acquisition. They're like, well, we've changed our mind about some stuff.
And so I think, I had a lot of hesitancy about the acquisition when they kind of announced it. I was like, I don't know if this is great because I love like Bethesda games. I still love, but this isn't changing my opinion about Bethesda games. I love them, but that creates a weird morale point. And I think that's why you saw a lot of departures right around that acquisition of a lot of higher ups, a lot of leads, a lot of creatives.
Right. The people who had been through this before knew that this was coming. I went through the same thing. I hadn't been through that before, but my boss and my boss's boss, they were some of the first people to leave the company before the company let them go. Not because they were bad employees, but because they didn't want to be there for the fallout and all the crazy stuff that was going on. And they had plenty of experience. And so they started looking for jobs way early. And then I remember my boss, he was a great guy. He was the guy that got me the job there. And he was like, I can't officially say anything, but I can tell you what I'm doing. And maybe that will give you some insight into how you should look forward with what's going on here,
right?
Yeah.
I think it's an important piece of news, and it's something that will affect Starfield. Like this will affect Starfield as an active development. This is going to affect that game immensely, along with a lot of your other favorite, Xbox games, including, Call of Duty now, including World of Warcraft. Like the effects of this will be felt across numerous companies.
Right.
Everyone is probably afraid of their jobs and what that could mean in their future. And when you think about it, these are high paying, like highly technical jobs that these people are doing. And so likely they could be the only breadwinners of their family. Like their spouse could be doing something else. They may have, they could be the ones that are providing that income. And so like having that looming over you that this could happen to you is going to affect the creative development of these games no matter what.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. So our hearts go out to you. If you are suffering through losing your job or worried about losing your job, we feel bad for you. So we totally understand if things slow down, we don't get updates as quickly, or the next expansion or whatever. It totally makes sense. Eventually, things come back. Eventually, these companies can rebound with good leadership and good people, the people who remain, all of that. But it is a struggle, and so we genuinely feel for you if you're going through this. I've been through it myself. It's no fun. So there you go. Thanks for bringing that up, Dave. It's a kind of a heavy point.
I loved it end on a great note.
Ending on a nice heavy point about people losing their jobs. End
every podcast with rage and sadness all wrapped up into one.
This is how I handle my life every day. I end my day with rage, a good cup of rage.
I go to bed angry and sad every night.
Cup of rage and a plate of sadness.
Oh, yeah.
That's my late night snack. Well, thank you for being here. We would love to hear your thoughts about the city of Neon, the way the government is set up, your experiences with these mega corporations, and where you think some of this could be expanded in other interesting ways, say in future updates or sequels and those kinds of things. And heck, if you even have any really cool stories about Starfield and you want to share them on the Discord server, please let us know. It's always fun to read people's experiences with that stuff. And we just appreciate you being here and listening. Dave, you got other stuff you want to share before we head out?
Rad Rolls is doing their thing, my thing, their thing, everyone's thing. We are a tabletop role-playing game that you can listen to on all podcast services. We're having a great time out in the Stormlands, an original setting in the middle of America. So check that out on YouTube and podcast services.
Nice. And of course, you can check out all of my other shows. I'm wearing my Fallout Lorecast shirt, which I've had for years now. It's faded and old at this point.
Wow. Yeah. So retro, so vintage.
Yeah. But we're talking tonight with our patrons on the Elder Scrolls Lorecast about the new updates for ESO. There's new Daedric Prince and that kind of thing. There's the Fallout Lorecast. There's the Lord of the Rings Lorecast and Mass Effect Lorecast. Lots of different shows on the Robots Radio Network that are even not my shows. So go to robotsradio.net, check all that stuff out. Go check out Rad Rolls with Dave and his friends. And thank you for being here. We'll be back next week with our patrons. So that's exciting. We'll see you out there, and stay safe. Try not to get stuck on Neon because you're addicted to Aurora. It's not necessarily
Ta-ta for now,
the way
folks.
to do it. All right. See you later, everybody.
Listening to the podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this show.
Did you know that parodies are copyright protected?
Tell a friend and review
on iTunes
or other services. Dave and Tom excited for Starfield. Let's all speculate and wear no shoes.
Hey, why aren't we wearing any shoes?
Because shoes rhymes with iTunes, and that's the best I could think of.